Let's see. Okay, here we go. Leadership class number 16, meeting the needs of your wife. There's also a class on meeting the needs of your husband, but they are different because our needs are different. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into number 1 here, and that is a major responsibility of a husband is to work hard at meeting his wife's basic needs. A major responsibility of a husband is to work hard at meeting his wife's basic needs. Now, these are God-given needs. They're given to God. They're not something that a person can get themselves. It's not something that's just developed. It's just in the brain. This is really true. God has given needs to both husbands and wives that they cannot meet themselves for the purpose of having someone else fulfill those needs for them. This way we can become interdependent upon each other and not solely independent. Men, I think wives actually have the job a little bit easier for most men, because most of the time men just want 3 things, and that is glory, food, and sex. Those needs are met, well, we're pretty much good. And a place to go to the bathroom. That's it. We're solid with that. For women, it's a little bit more complex. Actually, when I wrote the women's class, Needs for Your Husband, if you notice, if you flip over to it, I don't know if you got a copy of it or not, actually, you may not have. The font is slightly larger because I had less to put. So I was trying to make up stuff for the women's class. The men's class is a little bit longer. If the needs of your wife are met, then they typically tend to be happy. However, if they are unmet, that's where you start running into them being upset and strife, and then they don't want to meet your needs either. But it's up to the husband to first meet the needs of his wife, to love his wife first, not the other way around. In fact, Scripture tells us that the husband is to love his wife and that the wife is to submit to her husband. And the idea is that the husband loves his wife and is meeting her needs, which gives her the desire to even want to submit. But it's never, in Scripture does say, wives, love your husband. It says, husbands, love your wives. That's our job. That's our one of our basic needs. So let's go ahead and move on to number 2. A leader knows that the basic needs of those they are leading and works hard at meeting them, will grow rapidly in character and will be great in the kingdom of heaven. A leader who knows the basic needs of those they are leading and works hard at meeting them will grow rapidly in character and will be great in the kingdom of heaven. As we develop then taking care of our wives' needs, it helps teach us how to take care of other people's needs as well. One of the needs of just being stable, not being a person of anger, not being angry, that makes a big difference. There was a story that I was listening to that when this one company was hiring new employees, or church, I think it was a church that was hiring new employees, when they would bring somebody on, before they would hire them, they would bring the husband and wife. And they get the chance to watch the husband and wife engage with each other and do things. And then they would take the husband out golfing. And if the husband was out golfing and he hit the ball and it went off into the weeds or something like that, and he got angry, and he said even just a little bit, like really, really just kind of angry and just, he said they wouldn't hire him. I said, because if he shows that type of anger just in a golf game, what does that say about his relationship with his wife? Because you're going to be much more reserved with other people. What does that say about his relationship with his wife? And they want to make sure that they're hiring people of character. I always thought that was an interesting way of dealing with things. And they also watch interactions at dinner. You know, how's the husband treating his wife at dinner? And they care more about character than them being smart. I think that's true. There was another company, it's Dave Ramsey, who said they hired the best and brightest people for the longest time. I thought that was the way to go. And they said they discovered that the greatest and brightest people were not always the best hirees. Oftentimes they brought a lot of drama and problems with them. They prefer to get people of character because they're the ones who are going to perform better and keep the peace within the company and help them perform better. Thought that was interesting. Number 3, we will never do better in ministry than we do with our wife. We will never do better in ministry than we do with our wife. Again, this goes back to the idea that our wife is the first one to serve. If you are married, this is the first person we serve. This is even above and greater than serving our children, and definitely above ministry within the church. We start at home first with our wife. Then the second one is the children, and then after that, it's everyone else. So that's where we start, is with wife. So we will never get better at ministering to other people than we do to our own wives. So let's say you want to be the best ministering in, I'm trying to think of a ministry, in making benches for people. You want to be the best person, have a team of people to make benches. While you will get to a certain level of ability, there will be a point where you bottleneck out. And then what bottlenecks you out is your ability to serve your wife. Because when you learn how to serve your wife, then that teaches you how to serve other people. So that's why this always has to be priority over everything else. It's true here in the church. It's true for my position as a pastor. If I'm not treating my wife very well, then the result is that I typically won't be treating other people as well. And God won't bless me. God won't bless. I mean, can you imagine standing before God and God saying, and he's no longer acting like dad, but he's acting like your father-in-law. He's like, so why did you treat my daughter this way? God is not going to bless somebody who's abusing his daughter. And he's not going to bless you to do better in ministry. But he will bless you if you do treat his daughter well, then he does bless you. Moving on, number 4. The first basic need of our wife is security. So number 1 is security. Your wife wants to be secure. She wants to know that you're not going to do stupid things, that you won't lead your kids to hell, that you won't lead your family to financial ruin. She wants to make sure that you're not going to gamble it all away. She needs security. And when she has a security, it becomes easier to submit. A lot of people bring up verses, well, the Bible says submit. It's true. The Bible does tell the wife that she needs to submit, but it's hard for a wife to submit when she doesn't feel security, because she doesn't know if she's going to have to pick up everything and take care of everything. If she's knowing that you're going to be a secure person, then there's comfort if she can know that she can trust you. But if she knows there's no security, then she can't trust you, and she feels like she has to pick up the slack at some point in time because everything's going to fall on her anyways. So that goes on to the 5th one. The Bible commands wives to submit to their husbands. That position makes them very vulnerable to their husband's behavior, and they know it. And there's a lot of things that we can do to give our wives security, that they don't feel so vulnerable. And that's simple things like keeping your commitment. It's funny because tonight I was working on this lesson, and I told my wife I'd be at home at 5 o'clock for dinner. And I wasn't quite done being prepared. And I was thinking, well, maybe I'll be home about 5:15. And I was looking at this one. I was like, you got to keep your commitments. You told your wife to be home at 5. She's got dinner ready at 5, not at 5:15. She's trying to make sure all the kids don't eat all the snacks in the house because you told them 5. You just need to go home and then eat fast, then come back and finish up getting ready.
Happy wife, happy life.
That's right. Happy wife, happy life. So just keeping the commitment to little things. You say you're going to go home and pick up some milk on the way home, pick up some milk on the way home. If you don't, it's not a big deal, but it is, because it builds up to that person feeling like, well, I can't trust them. And there's a lack of security. Reading your Bible daily, that really helps build up security so that they feel comfortable with this. And okay, they're reading, they're in God's word. It creates security. They know that you're not going to go crazy. They know that you're doing this daily and that you're self-controlled. Because just reading the Bible every single day and praying every single day shows the wife, here's somebody who's got control of their life, who's trusting God. They have self-control. And so therefore they feel more confident in the decisions you're making, because you're not just trying to make it up as you go, but you're seeking God, especially when you're seeking God and then seeking wise counsel. And they know that's, like I said earlier, you're not going to mortgage the house and do something stupid. They know that you're learning about finances. They know that you're trusting God. It's really important that when we are to help them feel less vulnerable, that even the compliments that we give them. I now stay away from complimenting my wife's looks. And when I was younger, her looks. I didn't always compliment her. When I was younger, it's not that I don't compliment her about her looks. I still do, especially if she tries to look nice. I still compliment her. But it's not the sole and primary thing I compliment her about. I usually compliment her about things that are her character. Because I recognize that if all I'm focusing on is my wife's looks, saying, oh, you look really hot, honey, or whatever it is that I say, the problem is she knows that there's a million other ladies out there who looks stunning, and she may feel insecure to that. If all you're looking for is looks, she knows there's other women out there that are better looking, and she's going to think that's what you're focused on. So I try to compliment her character, things that build her up that I can't get from other people, that I only get from her. And I think that was a big shift in my thinking, because I always used to say, yeah, my wife is hot. I still do. But, and that's because I believe it. But I've also learned that I needed to focus more on her character, and that has given her more security. Whenever I give her compliments on her looks, it didn't give her security, and I couldn't figure it out. She doesn't, that's not what she's worried about. I mean, she's worried about she cares that I care about other things about her more that I don't get from other people. Number 6, husbands who are faithful, who faithfully practice the basic disciplines of the Christian life, who are spiritual leader of their family, who manage their money well, will create an environment of security in their marriage. Husbands who are faithful, who faithfully practice the basic disciplines of the Christian life, who are the spiritual leader of their family, who manage their money well, will create an environment of security in their marriage. Now, there are 3 things that are listed here. What are the 3 major points that are listed that we can do?
Faithful leader and security.
Okay, faithful leader and security. But what are you going to be practicing?
Discipline.
The basic disciplines of the Christian life. So that would be 1. Being a faithful leader in your family. That's 2. And what's the last one?
Security. The women want security.
They do want security, but what gives them that security?
Good management.
Managing your money and managing it well. That will create security as long as they know that they're going to be able to have food. That helps. Number 1 problem in most marriages is what?
Money.
Money. Fight over money. A lot of times people will have 2 different accounts. Husband and wife will have 2 different accounts. What does that tell you about the wife's opinion of her husband's money management skills?
He sucks.
Yeah. And even if she doesn't think he sucks, she is scared to be fully dependent upon him and having 1 account.
2 people can't manage money. It's got to be either the man or the woman.
Yeah.
I chose to let her do it because she has
the skills.
Well, not necessarily the skills. I got the skills too, but if she does it, she's more dedicated to doing it certain times of the month, and whenever it's however the payments are set up. Not that we have that much to pay, but she just does it.
Yeah, and in my house, my wife's job is to manage our bills as well, but we talk about them monthly and about what we're going to do, including giving. Because at one point in time, I said, wait a second. We had spent some money. I said, that was money for the church. That wasn't money for us. And and we realized we had made an error somewhere along the line, and we're like, well, we're gonna have to fix that. We're gonna need to rectify that. So that was a concern of ours, and we managed that through conversation. And you need to do that. Both of them, but she does all the paying of the bills. I'll have to check, hey, how are we doing? I'll go on and check my credit or my checking account to see, but I'll be like, what's going on with this or that? But she knows it all. And it's never an accusation. It's more like, wait a second, did you spend $15 on Roblox? No. We have a $15 Roblox deduction from Xbox. What happened there? And that's where you find one of the kids found out the password. So, and that's a password change. Number 7, a major weakness in men that destroys security in their wife is anger. Major weakness in men that destroys security in their wife is anger. If I were to come home from work and blow up on my wife and start yelling at all the kids, and I were to do this just every other day, not every day, maybe only a couple times a week, what does that do?
Breaks down the marriage.
Breaks down the marriage. Why though?
Because every time you go to work, which is something that enforces security, and you're coming home and you're angry, it shows that you're not secure at work.
Okay.
You're not secure at home.
So I'm not secure at work. I'm getting angry. I'm angry at the kids. But what if I only do that twice a week? It's not that bad.
Wife on the defensive all the time.
She's on the defense, but I'm only doing it twice a week. Only needs to be.
Doesn't make any difference. It's every day today.
Yes.
What's he going to do today?
That's the exact point right there. What's he going to do today? They don't know what to expect. And they lose security. Is this person going to blow up? Is this person going to yell at me? Is this person going to yell at the kids? There's a loss of security when someone is angry all the time. And the number one problem that men have typically across the board is controlling our anger. I worked with a gentleman who could not control his anger. There's some medical stuff going on in his life, chemical reactions going on in his brain, could not control his anger, gave me PTSD. And so therefore, whenever someone would call me and say, hey, we need to talk, I would automatically start getting anxiety attacks because I didn't know there was a lack of security in my own life. So this is also translates very well to ladies and women, to wives, as they're trying to determine, okay, well, who's coming home tonight? Maybe you'll be home happy for the first minute, but are you going to be happy later on? So this is the number one thing that destroys marriage.
I hardly ever get mad or angry, or whatever you want to say. But when I get angry or mad, I'm angry all over. The best thing for me to do is just get away.
Yeah.
Work it out in my own mind, and that way you have no problem with your spouse.
Yeah, I got angry with my son the other day, and what's that? Fort Little Ashton. Who's actually Mason?
Oh.
So I got angry with Mason the other day, and he tried to fix it, but he couldn't. At this point in time, he already blew it. And I said, look, there are consequences to the decisions you have made. I accept your apology, but the consequence is your dad is upset. So you cannot go with me right now. You need to stay away, and I'm going to go do this job. And when I come back, I will calm down. But right now, the wise choice is to stay away from dad and let him cool down. And he's like, okay. I will close the door now. And he's like, I'm going to go mow the yard. I said, that's an excellent idea. You should go mow the yards today. That will make me feel much better. I'm going to go now. I love you. Goodbye. So, on his face, okay, I'm just going to, we're done. But he made the wise choice. He didn't keep pushing it. I needed that. I don't think that was a good way to express my anger. Let him know I still love him. And that was a big key thing. I still love you. That's really true for women or wives, to let them know even when we're angry, to say I love you. I'm really not happy right now. I love you. I'm not happy. but we need to reassure them of that. Because that's another thing that I find that's commonly, wives will think, well, if you're angry at me, you stop loving me. And I think that lots of times men think, well, we got married, of course I love you. Hello, yeah, I'm angry, but doesn't mean I stop loving you. But that's not true for women. For security reasons, at least. That they say they still love you, but they may feel like you stopped loving them when you're angry. So it's important for us to let them know, even when we're angry, I love you. I love you. I'm really ticked off about this. But I love you. End of the day, I still love you. And that helps. Number 8, the second basic need of a wife is communication. When my wife talks to me, I try to make sure that I communicate with her.
Listen.
I do listen.
That's all
I
you
make
gotta
sure I
do.
nod my head, I grunt, but more importantly, I actually pay attention. So it's one thing to sit there and for her to talk. It's another thing for me to look at her and see what she's saying and listen. Now I don't act like a woman and get all womany. I don't know what you call that, but where I do communicate things to her. It's kind of funny. I've said things like, okay, honey, I'm trying to understand this. Do you want me just to listen to what you're upset about, or do you want me to give you advice? Because I'm not sure which one you want right now. And most times it's like, I just want you to listen. Okay, I just needed to clarify that because I want to fix it and tell you how to fix it. But that's not what she wanted. But, it's that she knows that I'm paying attention at least to her. So sometimes asking questions like that help. Like, okay, so are you telling me that you're feeling this? Is that what you're trying to say? And she may not. She'll be like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. But that's okay. At least you're listening. So give her attention. You don't have to act like a woman, but you do need to pay attention. The goal is intimate communication, not just chit chat. The goal is intimate communication, not just chit chat. We'll go to the next one, because I kind of covered the chit chat one. Number 10, quality time is great, but there's no substitute for quantity of time. Our wife wants and needs our time. Quality time is great, but there's no substitute for quantity of time. Our wife wants and needs our time. This brings security, giving her quantity of time. She knows that the number one person in her life is you. It's not to say that you can't go out with friends. It's not to say that you can't go hiking. But you need to make sure that she is getting quantity of time as a primary. And that can be hard with working, making sure that she gets quantity time. Quality's great, quantity's better. So that's why when my wife calls, I pick up. I pick up for my wife. I like having the Alexa in my office because she can drop in at any time and get hold of me. Most of the time it's fine. 80% of the time it's fine. Sometimes it's not a good timing. But Ashley's giving her a hard time. She drops in. Ashton is not listening to me. What do you think about that, Dad? She likes having that. And then we talk, then Ashley starts listening. I said, do I need to come home right now? No. Usually just a threat's enough. I'm walking out to the car. He sees me walking off camera. Oh, I'm good. But after that, we'll talk. He'll calm down and we'll talk. And she just needs that, someone to talk with. She just wants the quantity. I love going home and having lunch with my wife. Today, I didn't necessarily have the time, but she said, will you drive with me down to Staten? I just need to go get the doctors to come back. And I said, okay. Because I knew that obviously if she asked, she wanted me to go. So I went ahead and went with her. And that's when she made me that bread. So that was my lunch. I ate that bread in the car, and it was worth it. Like, I didn't know she was going to do that, so that was way better than having another salad bag at home. Number 11, the third basic need of our wife is unity. Third basic need of our wife is unity. If there is not unity, wives really hate conflict. They hate to have that. It creates insecurity, and so it's a big deal. So it should be a big deal for us to resolve it. I can be angry and go on the rest of my day, and almost start to forget about it and move on. Wives typically don't.
Women never forget.
No.
Never.
So they're going to hold on to it. How long are they going to hold on to it, Bill?
Forever.
Forever. If you don't take care of it, it'll never resolve, and it'll only create more and more conflict. And this is where this one comes in, number 12. The best discipline to produce this is praying together. The best discipline to produce this is praying together. Why would praying together be a good way to help in creating unity?
You have to do it together.
Got you together. What else?
If there's an issue, you can pray about it.
Okay, if there's an issue you can pray about. That's right. When you're praying, who are you involving?
God.
Involving God. When you're praying together with your wife, who's involved in your relationship?
God.
God. You're inviting Him, the Holy Spirit, to unify the two of you together. The husband needs to be the peacemaker if he expects to be the leader. The husband needs to be the peacemaker if he expects to be the leader. It's interesting because in my family, my wife has been the peacemaker for the majority of the time. It's interesting, even though I had position, even though I had power, I had no authority as far as being a leader, even in my own family. And I was watching my wife become more of an authority, especially in my kids' lives, than I was, because she was the peacemaker. And I was letting anger and other things take lead.
But you've got to realize this that goes along with that. The woman is the one that had the kids, had the children. So kids are just naturally going to gravitate to mom, no matter
But not
what.
just our kids. She was starting to have authority and influence, that's called influence, on other people around her because of her character. God was blessing her because she was being the peacemaker, where I was not being so much the peacemaker. I was being a little bit of a more of a know-it-all, especially in my late 20s, early 30s. And I was like, wait a second, something ain't right here. Why is my wife's ability to influence increasing and mine is just kind of stagnant? It's because I was not. So when I learned to be the peacemaker in my family and lead in peacemaking, then my influence began to increase on my children, on my wife, and on those around me. But there had to be a shift in my own heart. And part of that's because I remember my dad and how he led, and I led more like my dad. Now I'm leading more like Jesus, and so that was a big difference. And I think that was a significant shift where I needed to figure out how to be more like Jesus and less like a man. The fourth basic need of our wife is romance. The fourth basic need of our wife is romance. This is the first one that usually goes. Why do I need to do romance? We're married. Of course he loved me. Of course we're married. We're done, right?
Your marriage gets stale.
Your marriage gets stale. That's right.
You have to find things to do to make it exciting.
And I think this is, for whatever reason, this is you have kids, it gets harder.
Sure.
That makes it
dominate
harder.
all your time.
They do. And so this is the first thing that's to start going, is the romance. And of course, I love you. but she needs to know that you still care for her and you're still trying to court her. Remember, it was dating that brought us to our wives. It was dating that keeps our wives and or our wives, my wife and I together. Is that we continue to date and go. And in fact, it's even written into my goals to go on a date twice a month. And it was a period of time near Christmas where we didn't go on a date for like a little over a month. And I remember saying to my friend, we need to go on a date. I don't care what we do. I know there's no movies or anything, but no place to go out to eat, but we're gonna go do something. And we did. Remember that one, Colin. Okay? The dating one's important. Highlight it. Saying I love you often will never lose its power. Saying I love you often will never lose its power. It creates security in them. It lets them know that you love them all the time, even when you're angry or when you're sad. With my family, I have a saying. I'll tickle my kids. Say, do I love you when I tickle you? And they're like, yeah. And then I'll say, mean voice, but do I love you when I'm angry? Like, yes. Do I love you when I hug you? Yes. Do I love you when I'm sad? Yes. When do I love you? All the time. Reason I teach that to my children is because oftentimes people will perceive God in the same way they perceive their father. So if they perceive their father as distant or uncaring, then they'll perceive God in the same manner. It's not true, but it's what often happens. I want my kids to know that God loves them all the time. Same is also true for my wife. That she needs to know that I love her all the time, just like her Father in heaven loves her all the time, that I'm going to reflect him. And so I say, I love you all the time. Deeds of kindness communicate loudly that we care. Sometimes that back rub or that, let me get that for you. What other type of deeds of kindness can we do?
Dishes.
Tissues?
Dishes.
Dishes. Taking her dishes and then doing them. Yeah.
Washing their car.
Washing their car? That's too much. That's what I have children for. That's what I have children for.
That's what I have dog for. They just make it messier.
Just make it messier. Dates worked early and they worked late. Here's the key though, you need to initiate it. Unfortunately, we become a male passive society. We may even say, hey, you know what, let's go out to eat. And the wife says, oh, that's a good idea. Well, where do you want to go? Well, you just took the initiation, but you just cut it off at the knees because we're no longer making decisions. It's not that we shouldn't include our wives in the decision, but oftentimes they like it when we plan things out. It means that we were thoughtful. We figured it out. We made reservations. You know, that's a big one. Just to make a reservation means that we thought about this in advance. This wasn't just spur of the moment so that we could have sex when we get back, but we were thinking like, I mean, half the reasons why I want to go on dates, but I don't tell my wife that.
I'll tell her.
You'll tell her things, you know, but making reservations, it says a lot, planning things out. So we need to initiate it. The fifth basic need is to be understood. Some women are going to need this more than others. It's going to be more work. And other women are going to be like, well, this is really easy. Seems to be like almost no problems to understand. But every woman needs to be understood, and just depends on who you're married to if you're just got to work harder on that one. Husbands should learn their wife's temperament, spiritual giftedness, their passions, and their weaknesses. So what is my wife? What's her temperament? What's her personality, character? All that comes together. Then what's her giftedness? And how do you encourage that giftedness? It was really hard for my wife when she couldn't play the piano for a while because she was raising kids. She wasn't able to use her giftedness. So every time she played the piano, it's just that she wasn't able to play in church for several years. And as Ashton grew older, then she was able to play more. But when she would play the piano at home, and we'd just be at home, I would always go lay on the couch and listen to her play. Because it allowed her to use her giftedness. I enjoyed the music. Sometimes I was even kind of bored because I wanted to do something else. And I'd be thinking about something else, like I really want to go do this. But who did she have to play for an audience anymore? She didn't. And so that she could play for me lifted her spirits because then she was able to use her giftedness. And I learned to give my wife attention. And make sure that I commented on the songs too. Got really good at that. Like I really like that one part. Number 20, the sixth basic need of our wife is to be honored. It's to be honored. Is to talk to her first when you walk into a room that your wife is priority. To do anything less than that and to ignore her would be to dishonor her. Hi, Don. Are you grabbing? Oh, okay. Are you grabbing the cards too?
Oh, no, but
They're on the wooden, right behind you. Nope, further back. Yes.
okay. Did I happen to leave that check? I'm sorry to bother you.
Did you give me a check yesterday?
No, it was a reimbursement check today, but then I opened it. I can't.
I have one for Mason, and I have mine, but I don't think I have one for you.
Okay, sorry to bother you.
It's okay. Yeah, Don, I don't have anything. Okay, so talk to her first. Don't ignore her. She's always priority. Even though it's true with phone calls, don't ignore her. Now, I can't always grab my phone, but I make sure I always call my wife back. I try to make sure she's my priority and she knows it. In fact, I'll even tell her like, hey, I'm not supposed to be picking up the phone right now, but I only picked up because you called. Can I call you back? Sometimes I'll say that. But I'll let her know the only reason I picked up was because it was her. And that shows her honor. What's that?
Said slick.
Happy wife, happy life.
That's right. There is one that I do use for myself, though, when I want something, and it's usually happy spouse, happy house. Hasn't quite caught on.
Ooh,
I've tried.
good one.
Yeah, well, you know what? My wife just looks at me like,
Whatever.
so that ain't working.
Quickly interrupting them. That's not how it goes.
That's not how it goes, yeah. Number 21, it was intended by God that a married woman get her self-worth from her husband. It was intended by God that a married woman gets her self-worth from her husband. This is part of that submission. This is part of that finding security. And she finds her self-worth not in the world and not what other people think, but what her husband thinks of her. And that he makes sure that she knows it and builds her up. What happens when you give your wife self-worth and you build her up?
What happens to it?
Yeah, what happens? What's it called? If I build up my wife and I show her self-worth and I build her up, what is the result of that?
Happy you.
Happy love me. That's right. Because what is she going to do in return?
Confidence and gets returned.
Sex.
Sex, number one, is always a good one. Tuesday or Saturday, I was tired. I didn't want to do any more cleaning of houses or people's property. And it's a beautiful day. And I wanted to go do something fun. And I wasn't. And my wife sent me a really nice text just saying, I'm really proud of you. Now, she has the confidence and ability to do that because, I try to compliment her. So she is responding and like. Number 22, the timeless way to honor anyone is with good manners. Now, I don't burp at the table. I don't fart at the table or sit on the couch next to her. most of the time. But I try to show good manners to my wife. Number 23, acknowledge our wife's presence is very important. It's part of the going into a room and greeting her first, letting her know that she's number one importance in my life. Acknowledging her presence. It's like with kids, we're working on our kids that when an adult enters the room that they say, hello, Mr. or Mrs. blah, 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 that they don't just keep playing video games with their friends, that they acknowledge the presence of the adults. It shows the adults respect and honor. When we do it, it shows her respect and honor. The seventh basic need of our wife is significance. Again, this you can find out her significance is often shown through her ministry, is supporting her ministry, letting her know that she is important, she is significant to you, and the things that she does. And then finally, the last one, this is a hard one, and remember, when you take the test, if you get this one wrong, you fail the test. Number 25 is praise, 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 and more praise. Praise, 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 and more praise. If almost all husbands remembered to not be angry, to let their wives know they love them over and over and over, and praise them, praise them, praise them, praise them, then pretty much half the work is done right there. To create security, there's no anger. The praise is great. They know that they're being loved and they're being listened to. I want my wife to seek my praise more than she seeks or gets praise from anyone else. I praise my daughter quite a bit, and so I praise her and lift her up. And so when her husband marries her, he's going to have competition because I'm going to continue to praise her, and I might just escalate it a little bit more just so her husband has to work a little bit harder and praise her some more. I'll let him know. So I said, we're in competition. Let's see who can outdo each other, which would be good for her benefit. What's that?
So I talk about that all the time
Yeah.
with my daughter.
So I want her to be praised. I want my wife, she needs to be praised. Okay, so that covers it for tonight. Let me go ahead and stop the recording. Stop recording.